Hey everyone, this is MGX coming to you with a new video series that I'm starting on my YouTube channel, where I take a look back at some of the fun games that I've had the opportunity to play in AoE 2, and I'm going to go over and recast a couple of them. For those of you that are following me on Twitch, Twitch TV/mgxiongmao, you know that I've gotten into casting a little bit with the Super League tournament, and I'm looking to kind of expand my horizons. And I'm hoping that going back over some games where I had a lot of fun will be helpful not only for me, but also for all of you as you start or as you continue on your own journeys in Age of Empires 2. So, without further ado, why don't we get started and jump right into this particular match? As we start, I want to point out one thing, and that's we're playing on a really unique map called Desert Slope, which is one of the Battle of Africa 2 maps. So it's not something that you're going to normally see in 1v1 play. It's also not something you're going to be seeing in the ranked queue anytime soon. But if you watched any of the Battle of Africa or have seen any team games recently, will probably recognize at least some aspects of this map. A little context with why I was playing this particular game against GetBeaned. We were just playing a best of two, or a best of three that then turned into a best of five. I won the first two games, and GetBeaned wanted to throw me off a little bit by presenting me with a map that I hadn't had a chance to play on yet. And he most certainly did that. I only had a couple of seconds to view the map ahead of time just to get a general sense of what was going on, and I saw that, well, there might be some resources outside of, these tree lines, but I didn't have a thorough understanding of how exactly this map needed to be played. So you'll notice that I'm just going for a fairly standard build here. I played as the Ethiopians because they're a civ that I'm fairly familiar with and that I enjoy playing. I also sometimes like to do a fun little scout into Archer's build. So that was kind of what I was thinking. I was also thinking, well, maybe we could go double archery range. But as I'm going through on this map, I'm realizing I don't have a lot of food. I'm looking around my base. I only have, this handful of goats that are here. I have this small patch of berries. I don't really know where I'm supposed to get food. So taking a look over at GetBeaned, what we can see here is that he's already starting to get on his wood line, and he's also exploring out in the center of the map, which is something that I hadn't yet done. If you take a look at my fog of war, you can see that I was only kind of scouting around my base just to get a sense of, oh, well, are there other resources here? Is there a board that I could find? And I am not having any luck in doing so. So I decided to build my lumber camp in the back. I wasn't really thinking yet about the fact that I could expand out behind my base. And in fact, if you take a look again at my fog of war, you'll see that I couldn't even see, knowing that the edge of the map was so close, that there was any area behind this wood line. And that's going to come back into play in a little bit. Here you can see that I'm starting to have this moment of, well, I don't quite know what I'm supposed to do. I don't have any food. All I have are my berries. I guess I'm going to have to try to put all my vills on there. In the meantime, GetBeaned, who has seen and played this map before, has a general idea of where he should be going and what he should be doing. So you can see here that he's sending all of his food vills outside of his home base into the center. And this is the food boon that I needed and had no idea that I could access. There are elephants all over the place. There are zebra, ostriches, there are berries. There's everything. And yet here I am back in my base, not realizing that I had all of this opportunity out here. So thankfully, I had done a little bit of scouting at this point to notice that there are Ellies and other hunt. So I decide, well, I guess the way to play this is by luring in elephants. I knew that luring them in from this distance was going to be a really terrible idea. And actually here, I was going to lose this bill, but I thought, well, if I can bring him in, if I can hunt him off, it's going to be really close. I was able to plop down a house to de-aggro the elephant from attacking my vill, which kept this vill alive. But um, I'm not going to be able to do this much more, because if you're looking in the center here, there's only these two other elephants, and they're further out. It's going to be very, very difficult for me to do anything. At the same time as I'm Thinking, oh, I guess I'm just going to have to keep luring Ellie's in, GetBeaned has already set up his mill on the berries and is also hacking away at his first elephant. This is going to put him at a significant advantage. He's already going to have a lot of control down in the center, whereas I'm basically just holed up in my base, not really knowing what to do. So I send my scout over here, and I don't quite see where he's at yet, and of course I'm idling my scout because, well, things happen. In the meantime, if we take a look at GetBean's Fog of War, he hasn't really scouted me. He might generally know where I'm at because of this little area right here. But he is mostly spending his time in the center. And you see that already, even in the Dark Age, he's going to get his barracks up, which suggests to me that, as the Goth player, he may try to send his, an early Drussian to attack me. So you'll see that I'm here luring in my second elephant. I believe I do have success with this elephant, and it's going to be a just barely success. Getting up these hills is very difficult, and as you can see, my villager is taking a lot of damage, which is not good. Thankfully, and by the luck of one tile, this other elephant was just out, so I already started sending my villagers forward to grab this elephant, and I was able to garrison the ville. Now, the problem here is that I have a couple of weak villagers. Again, going out for this third elephant, if that villager barely survived the last elephant pull, is just not going to be a good idea. Going back to GetBean's base, we can see that he's going in for yet another elephant lore. He is in such a good position compared to where I'm at right now. And it looks like he is currently at 22 villagers to, or 21 villagers to my 22 villagers. So we are relatively even. I decide that it's time for me to start thinking a little bit defensively. I don't quite know what's going to be coming in yet. So I build my barracks because I have advanced up. I send my third villager out to go for yet another elephant lore. We'll see whether or not that lore makes it back. In the meantime, GetBeaned has already started to produce some militia out of the barracks in the center. So it looks like he's probably going to go for a man-at-arms rush while also advancing to the feudal age. He's a few percentage points behind, but that's not going to be that much of a difference given he's already going to have some military units out. So we see here that I'm really trying to bring this elephant in. I only have one little patch of berries and a couple of ounces of food left from the original elephant, and this is not going very well. This villager is on such low health. I tried to de-aggro the elephant. It did not work, and he took hits, and this villager is going to go down. I could have tried to send a villager out there, but the elephant already started to wander back. So at this point, I'm thinking, what I need to do is really just try to wall up and turtle a little bit. If I can get enough wood, and as you can see here, I'm about to send all of my villagers who no longer have any berries to pick onto wood so I can get some farms up and going, then perhaps I can turn this game around a little bit. So both of us have now advanced to the feudal age, and you'll see here that GetBeaned already has 4 militia out and ready to go. I am nowhere near the ability to start pumping out any type of units just yet. I do have, if we take a look at my resources, a wee bit of wood and gold saved up, as well as a nice chunk of food. But again, the problem is I have no more food left. So with no more food left, I'm going to eventually run out of the ability to build villagers unless I get a bunch of farms started. And just as I'm about to fully close in my walls and stop this men-at-arms rush from coming in, this scout blocks my villager's ability to construct the final palisade wall, leaving a hole in the front of my base. Now, those of you who have played Age of Empires for any period of time probably know that walls inevitably come with holes in them almost always. The popular phrase when we're casting is that there's always a hole, and in this case, it was a pretty big problem for me. So I think, well, if I can lure these men-at-arms into the TC fire, we might be able to take some of them out. In addition, if I can get a couple of archers up, I'm going to be in a pretty good position to continue to defend. So as you can see, he sent in one spear, he sent in scouts, he has a couple of men-at-arms. I'm in a pretty bad position. In the meantime, he is on the gold in the center. He's continuing to collect hunt. Things are not going well for me. And I get my one archer or my two archers out, try to take a few hits, um, and they go down. The one thing that it does for me though is it pushes the men at arms outside of my base and allows me to build kind of a second layer onto my wall. So one problem here for me is that he decides to come forward with one tower. And this tower is not so great because it ranges my gold, which is right here. Now, thankfully, I have this side gold, which I do not believe if we go to the Fog of War, GetBeaned knows about. So even if he can't, even if he gets this tower up, it's going to be really challenging for him to get another tower up. Something unique and what I've been told about the Battle of Africa maps is they tried to make them so there wasn't a lot of stone and things wouldn't get campy. You'll notice that neither GetBean nor I have stone in our base. There's a wee bit of stone that's way back here that, quite frankly, I'll give you a spoiler alert, I never find. And GetBean also has a little bit of stone in the back over here. So, building another tower, getting TCs up, it's very likely going to require that we spend at the market. So one good thing that happened as this tower was going up is that I was able to lure some of these guys into both Archer and TC fire. So I've cleared out some of that initial push, and that's going to give me a little bit of time to boom and hopefully get back into this game. You'll notice that one thing that is really interesting is that my score kind of remains ahead for a period of time. I think part of that is probably due to a little bit of GetBean's eco balance. If we take a look at Bill count right now, he is ahead of me because I have lost some bills, but I think there will be a point where I get back ahead in the villager count and we're able to kind of keep things moving a little bit better. He also has, I'm noticing, an overabundance on gold. It may have been helpful if he had moved a couple more of those over to food. However, it is important to note that at my base, between this tower and between the men-at-arms, he's really knocking down my forward archery ranges. I'm not able to um, mass the archers in the way that I'm going to need, at least with this front portion. The good thing is that even though I'm off this forward gold, I'm able to start collecting from the side gold, which will continue to give me a little bit of production. But if you take a look at my resource count right now, I am not in a good place. I am not able to produce units. All I have is wood, um, and I don't have a market up yet to trade. The one good thing about having wood is that I'm able to build another archery range without too much of a thought. And this is a really good thing because now I'm able to start kind of mass producing my archers in the back while he focuses on some of the buildings up front. Because the TC is blocking his path forward, he's not really able to go in any further past here. And so I am defended for the time being, but I am just heavily, heavily cornered. We see here that he does end up taking the score lead for a little bit, and this is where I think if I wasn't willing to keep steady and hold, I probably could have resigned or lost this game. So he's starting to move around a little bit with some of these men-at-arms. He's trying to keep them away from my TC fire, and he's going to micro them a little bit. Just to click back here very quickly, we see that he's rapidly expanding in the center. He has an archery range, a blacksmith. He has taken full control, while I have essentially been cornered. His men-at-arms are moving in from the front and from the back. That requires me to put some vills back into the TC. I'm trying to get these archers up, but again, my gold count is just so low. It's very difficult for me to do that. He decides that with the villagers who had come forward to build this tower, that he's going to start taking some of my gold by popping a mining camp down. Um, Again, this is, I think, a pretty good tactic for him because he's making use of the villagers. That he can also pull them back in the tower if need be. And they remain outside of the TC fire, which is really, really good. So here he is a little careless, I think, with some of the microing of these units. You see that he has a couple of skirms out too, And those skirms are, going to be the defense that these men-at-arms need against the archers, who could take them out of their mass. But again, I have a total of, let's take a look at the military count right now. I have a total of 7 military units compared to his 10. So I am behind right now. And again, there's just full eco happening down in the center and all of this map control. Whereas if you look at my fog of war, this is the extent of where I'm at. So here's where things, I think, start to turn a little bit. He's focusing on taking these houses down, which contributes significantly to my problem of being what I've been nicknamed as eternally housed. I decide that I'm going to start building a market because I have this abundance of wood. And if I'm able to kind of sell off, get that second feudal age building, sell off some of that wood, get enough food, I should be able to age up to castle age, which will allow me to access siege and also allow me to access the crossbow upgrade. Once I have crossbows, I'll be able to compete a little bit more, even if I have slightly fewer units. So right now, the name of the game is just trying to protect myself against, this push as best I can. So again, I am down 5 military units to 10. I'm down 34 villagers to 42. I am just not in a very good place right now. However, I have beaten GetBeaned to the click up to Castle Age, and he has decided to walk all of his men at arms into my TC fire and also into my archer fire. Decided is probably a little bit of a loose word because he probably looked away to go manage his eco, but unfortunately for him, this is going to put him at a little bit of a disadvantage because now our military is slightly more even, and though he may be able to reproduce a little bit, given that I'm already going up to castle age, I'm in a pretty good position to be able to move forward and hopefully get myself out of this little box. In the meantime, something to note at the back of my base is that I have already cut through. The problem with cutting through here and my lack of understanding of this map is I don't really realize that I can go out onto these sides. This villager, for whatever reason, had gotten clicked back here, and had I gone just a few steps more, I would have found this stone, which could have been a game changer for me. But alas, I didn't realize for quite a while that I could do that, and I decide, as soon as I hit Castle Age, to place a TC back here, which we'll talk about a little bit more once we get there. So again, just checking in, he's continuing to expand out in the center. The center just becomes fully blue. Back home, his base is not exactly, you know, anything to remark on. But given his dominance in the center, he's just in a really, really good position. So I'm thinking to myself, I have my archers, I'm going to be getting crossbow. Ethiopians do get pike, but there's nothing that I could be using pikes for right now. The best thing for me to do would be to try to get a mango out and maybe get a couple of snipes off these skirms and then allow me to take out the men-at-arms as best I can. And then once I have a mango, I could maybe even try to take the watchtower out. So again, I still have both a villager and a military deficit. I try to rush up this TC in the back because I'm thinking, well, if I'm here first, I need to capitalize a little bit on my ability to produce more villagers, though as we see, GetBeaned has also just advanced to the castle age, so he is not too far behind. I now have one mangonel, and I also have my crossbow upgrade in. So between my 11 crossbow and one mangonel, I start thinking this might be a good time for me to try to go forward a little bit. If I can lure a couple of his units into the TC fire once more with my mango, then we're going to be in a good place to try to take the advantage. So the first thing I do, which I think was probably a little bit of a bad idea, was get a attack ground on the villagers. Um, I was able to switch over pretty quickly to then attack ground on the skirms and knock a couple of them out. And as his men-at-arms go for my mangonel, I'm able to snipe out every single one of them. I think that was a little bit careless on his part, but I can also understand why he would want to try to get the mangonel out, um, given that he already had skirms massed. So this is where things start to shift in my favor. We see that the military count is now 16 to 6. I'm ahead of that for the first time. And my villager count is slowly starting to catch up. What was a fairly significant lead for GetBeaned is now actually only 3 villagers. And I'm continuing to produce out, whereas we see he has had a little bit more idle time than I have had. At the same time, though, it's important to note that he still has full control of the center. He has taken a lot of the different hunts. He's taken all of the gold on this side, meaning that his gold back home is still unused and safe. Whereas I'm still in the process of trying to, get out of this corner that I've been fully turtled into. One thing I did do is, because I'm known for being housed, is I built a bunch of houses, so hopefully we won't have to deal with that for a little while. I get 1 ram out because I want to try to get this tower down as soon as I can to take back my forward gold. I do end up losing the ram, unfortunately, but he's also going to lose most of his military units to my crossbows. I realize that I'm within the firing range. I'm going to lose my mangonel, but I get another ram out, and hopefully we'll be able to improve from here on. So one thing that happens is I see this knight that he's building, and I get really worried that he's decided to tech into cavalry. And as soon as I see that he's teched into cavalry, I think about the fact that Ethiopians can get pike, and I try to, um, you know, tech in there and build a couple of pikes as well, while also still producing my archers. Now that I finally have that tower down, I decide that it's time for me to try to go forward. And in thinking about going forward, I don't fully see all of the different buildings that he's constructed, but I intend on building a new TC to allow me to take a little bit more map control over this golden of the center. He does not have a lot of army right now. In fact, it is 3 units to my 20. And so I'm able to take these elite skirmishers out, even though, they're already at +2. I'm also at +2, and I have my ram, which I decide to start taking the stable down to eliminate any issues that I might have with knights. I also start thinking about making forward production buildings so I can help out with this push in the center as I'm continuing to build my TC, which it does not appear he has seen yet or has any response to. The one good thing is if I get this TC up, I'll be able to garrison my villagers and take out some of the vills that he has in his economy, while also eliminating some of the buildings that he has in the middle. This is a lot of disruption for him because going back to the fact that his base is still relatively open, he has cut through on this line, wood line, which means he is able to access the gold and stone, but the majority of his food eco was and is all in the center, taking hunt that I never really realized I had access to until I watched the replay of this game. At this point, my score lead is growing, which I think I was really happy to see at the time. And we also see that my villager lead is pretty significant given how far behind I was, both in military and villager lead, to be at this point where I'm now ahead fairly significantly on both counts. I'm pretty pleased to see that. I decided to build another siege workshop because I want to get a couple more rams out to help with this push and clear out the center. And I start to think about, well, if we clear him out of the center, what do we need to do to prevent him from having any type of boom? Because any of you who are currently participating in ranked 1v1s or any AoE2 tournaments probably know that Goths are a little bit OP right now in the current patch. And hopefully we'll have a little bit of balance on them. But if you let them boom, the spam is going to be almost insurmountable, I think. I do get my TC up on this side, and I'm able to snipe a few villagers before he is able to react and get the rest of these villagers away. He luckily is able to move these villagers out of the way before I get most of my crossbows there, but I do have my crossbows kind of clean up this little patch of villagers, making my villager lead continue to grow. We are at 73 to 47 vills. I'm trying to just do a full boom right now, produce out of all 3 of my TCs, and take control because I think that a win is potentially within my grasp. So I'm finally housed after not having to build houses for a very long time. This is again a common theme in most of the games that I play. But at this point, we've taken out almost all of his production buildings. We're going to be taking out his blacksmith. He's not going to have a market, which means that he's not going to be able to, balance some of his eco. He may have some of the food, he may have some of the gold, and right now he's floating quite a bit, right? He should be able to, start pumping vills out. He should be able to start pumping military out, and that was the fear that I had. So I continue to just want to take all of these buildings out. It may have been helpful for me to do a little bit more of a forward push sooner, but again, I was just kind of in this defense mode of I need to clear the center so I can start expanding and taking control. In the meantime, I'm starting to think it would be really nice if I could find stone for a castle. So if you take a look, I send these villagers out and I start discovering that I have very nice access to a number of different gold piles on the right hand side of my base, which is great. So I send those villagers out on a hunt. Of course, as Legion of Loom would say, Simba decides to join for a little bit. But we are going to keep exploring over there. Unfortunately, there will be no stone, and I'll forget about these villagers for a little bit. Back in GetBeaned's base, he's trying to mass skirms and mangonels, which I think is a pretty good combo, considering that I have basically gone majority archer with a few pikes. Again, the pikes were in reaction to the fact that I saw a knight. I probably could have stopped producing them, but it seemed worthwhile to take advantage of the Ethiopian bonus of getting automatic pikemen, and so I continued to build. In the meantime, you'll see that I was continuing to produce out of my TCs. There is a bit of idle time, but at this point I'm almost 30 villagers ahead. I'm almost 40 military units ahead. This game is not over just yet, but I've put myself in a pretty good position. I'm really happy to have come back after being so far behind. And hopefully at this point we'll be able to start taking out whatever he has in his base. Now, I don't know why I started attacking this house, considering the space was completely open and I could have moved in a little bit, but I think I was just probably managing aspects of my eco and having difficulty multitasking. I decided to send my pikes in to try to snipe these mangonels because I figured that if I could get the mangonels out, then I would be in a good position to move my archers in. And I'm not able to get either of the mangonels down, but one of them did take significant damage, which I will never complain about. So as those of you who play AoE2 know, the massive archers is what makes them very deadly. And I have to be very careful because these mangonel shots could start, taking out my archers. My thought here was if I split my army a little bit, I'll be able to minimize the amount of hits that I'll take, and I could also snipe the mangonels from two different sides. I do unfortunately get hit by a bada boom up here, but I am able to get the mangonels out shortly. In the meantime, my front army is getting taken out by skirms. My back army got a couple of hits on bills, but this is not a particularly smart move on my part. It would have been better for me to try to keep my numbers alive, and not allow him to build all of these different skirms. So again, I'm hunting with these villagers and I'm trying to think to myself, man, where is this stone? I really would love to drop a castle at the front of his base, put pressure on him. I just don't have the stone. So I'm recognizing I've already clicked up to Imp. He is not in a place yet where he can click up to Imp. He doesn't really have the res, and he's nowhere near the res because of how behind he is in eco. So that gives me a little window. As soon as I got up to the Imperial Age, I decide I'm going to sell off some of my gold and get enough stone to make a castle at the front of his base. And so I send a fairly large chunk of villagers over, and shortly you'll see that I am able to drop a castle right here. I start bringing up the rams, hopefully to knock some buildings out, and I also am continuing to produce my archers. At this point, you see that my military numbers are about 40 to 20, so I have double the size of military, though the one thing that he has are counters already built. Both Skirm and the Mangoes could very easily take out my Rams and also my Arbs, but I'm hoping that if I can get this castle up, even though I'm taking a few villager losses, that it's going to really help in the long run with this push. At this point, he has been almost fully removed from the center of this map. I'm taking out the last of the archery ranges. I'm trying to micro a little bit. They are very heavily focused on taking out this battering ram, which is great because it takes the pressure off of my villagers who are about to finish constructing this castle. One thing to note about his eco is that he does have the gold and the stone, and I didn't realize this until afterwards, but he had the ability to raid right into my base because I was oblivious to the fact um, that this was completely open on this side. Luckily, I do have a couple of mangonels, and I also decide, well, what would be a good counter to both slow-moving mangonels and also to skirms? The unique unit for the Ethiopians, the Shotel Warrior. These uh, units are probably some of my favorite in the game. They are rapidly able to, you're able to rapidly produce them as well as take out a bunch of different types of units, and as you'll see, are a really great counter to Goth spam, which will be coming shortly. He now has his castle up, but if we take a look back at his eco, we see that he is starting to finally mass res, but he's 110 villagers on my side to 77 villagers on his side with a 45 to 11 military lead. I'm in a really good position at this point, and I'm happy about it. So my Shotel warriors are starting to go in, and they've taken out a bunch of skirms. They've taken out his mangoes. This is not a really good place for him to be in. I continue to have my arbs pushing at the front, and I also want to take advantage of the fact that I'm an imp, so I start getting chemistry and some of the other techs to further upgrade my units. And I'm hoping soon that I'll be able to get Trebs out to start trebbing down a variety of his buildings. You can see back here that even as the Goth Huskarls are coming out, that we are in a really good position because my Shotel warriors are just starting to kill villagers. They're starting to kill the husks, and they are taking really good trades considering how quick and inexpensive those units are. Again, with losing some of these villagers, I've increased the villager lead even further. I also have Shotel warriors running along this wood line, taking some villager hits, and you can see I'm 112 vills to 64 to 63. Villagers are continuing to go down. The Shotel warriors are continuing to come in. I'm going to send in some of my arbs, which was probably not a great idea against the husks. I still hadn't fully had that much experience with Goths at this point, and had I realized, I probably would have saved my numbers. However, at this point, with the Shotel warriors continuing to wreak havoc, he's down to 50 villagers. And, it's just not going up from there. Even though he's able to get some of this spam going, now that I have a Treb out and I'm able to Treb down this castle, he is not in a very good place. And at that point, you see that he decides to end the game, to call the GG. And I was quite pleased because, again, I started this game in a really bad place. I had never played the map. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, but I was able to bring it back. And if we take a look at the statistics really quickly, we'll see that I was able to basically dominate throughout. He was able to collect stone, which was something that I never found and that I was never able to collect, but thankfully my gold collection was able to more than compensate for a castle purchase, which I'm quite pleased about. But I think really where I won the game was being able to continue producing villagers. It was very valuable, and it created a strong eco for me to end up winning out significantly. So, GG to GetBeaned. We had a really great series, and I enjoyed playing all three games. He's definitely right at my level, and I think that if we extended out even further, he would have been able to snipe a few games off of me as well. So I think I'm going to end the video here. I want to thank you all for making it this far, and would love to hear your thoughts and comments. Have you had experience on this map before? What do you think about this particular map? What do you think about the gameplay? Please let me know in the comments below. Also, if you like this content, I am trying to build out this channel for the first time, so I would appreciate any follows that you could give, any thumbs up, And you can also find me again at Twitch TV/mgxiongmao. I stream a couple times each week and primarily stream Age of Empires too, and would love to see you there. So thank you again, everyone, and I look forward to reading your comments and speaking to you again in the next video. Have a good one.